that really floats your boat. Public universities have for a long time suffered a serious governance crisis because of political interference. Until the NACT revolution of 2002, the vice-chancellors of the public universities were singularly appointed by the president, who was the titular head of all the institutions. The NACT administration changed this. Then President Mwai Kibaki ceded the position of chancellor and appointed seasoned private individuals to the position, and the university council or councils were tasked with appointing vice-chancellors competitively. Even so, the choice of the chancellors and council chairpersons remained political. The president and the respective ministers had some politically correct individuals to those positions, whereas a pattern evolved where individuals were selected to manage universities in their localities. What emerged was a situation where a chancellor, council chairperson, and vice-chancellor were all from one ethnic group. In turn, they recruited employees largely from their communities, turning public universities into ethnic ghettos. Reports by the National Integration and Cohesion Commission have revealed worrying trends where more than 80% of employees in some universities are from the local community. However, last week's appointment of chairpersons and council members of the 22 universities is a turning point. The positions were advertised, candidates shortlisted, interviewed, and the most suitable picked. Diversity and competence were applied, and those selected posted to institutions away from their localities. The officials have an arduous task. Councils approve policies and statutes, budgets, and staff development. In short, they play an oversight role in management. This has been wanting, I should say, as some lacked knowledge of management have been appointed because of political or ethnic affiliation. Now, a recent audit by the Commission of University Education exposed massive rot in the institutions, with damning queries on their quality and credibility. The new councils must reverse this decline and formulate policies for financial sustainability, effective governance, research, and innovation. And of course, also we're asking you this question. We want to hear what your views are. In any way, do you think the quality of Kenyan universities is of international standards, right? You can hit us on Twitter. And what metrics anyway do we use to measure ourselves? AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle, AM Live NTV is a profile name on Facebook, and 20505 our SMS portal. And I'm holding court this morning with the chairman of Commission for University Education. This is Professor Chacha Nyaigoti Chacha. Also, we have with us Dr. Duncan Omanga, is lecturer for University of Nairobi, also a columnist with The Standard. We do have with us also Professor Momo Kisau, who is the Vice Chancellor of Scott Christian University. Also, he is the chairman of private universities. Also, we have with us Professor Naomi Damba, who is the Vice Chancellor of KCA University and a resident analyst here on NTV Matters Security every Wednesday. And we have with us also Professor Humphrey Obora, who is the president of Africa Federation for Gifted and Talented Center for Academic Referrals. And we're discussing this status of universities in Kenya. Let me just begin with you, Omanga, because of course you wrote an article just recently, and you're saying, yes, the Commission for University Education has been in a sleeping stupor, but now they have woken up. Why do you think they have been dormant for all these years? Chairman is here, and you see now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the chairman would tell us, but I think the question comes up: where was the commission after it was set up, that is after 2013, and they only came up with all these issues just the other day? Yes. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of issues in universities, multiplication of universities, the quality is going down. There were issues to do with admissions, which they raised in their report, but which they never gave guidance much earlier. In fact, sometimes when you listen to officials from Professors Commission, yes, they speak largely through the media and not to the universities. And I think that is a problem. And that is why I thought, for me, they were asleep and they only woke up. Probably, maybe it's because of Professor Dr. Matiang'i. So
what did they wake up to?
I think they were woken up, actually, by the minister, because when they woke up, they realized that there were many things that were going on in the education sector. And I don't know how I can put it, but you had issues, for example, of you're talking about the so-called fake programs or fake degrees and all that. And I think the Commission knows that the elaborate processes that goes into making a program and all that. And for me, rather than looking at the process, they went and looked at the end, you know. And I think also the media took the way the media articulated this to the public was also wrong, you know, by using the word fake and all that. There was a problem with I think the proper distinction was accreditation and
approvals.
And approval. And accreditation is done by the Commission, approval is done by the Senate. But
before you even go further, because the issue of fake degrees, if actually we have the Cabinet Secretary of Education himself saying these are fake degrees, why should we be blaming the media that we did a very sloppy job, that we cannot even differentiate between accreditation and approvals? Maybe we are none the wise on this. Then you let us know today. Then, of course, what is this? But let me hear from Chairman. You've been a sleeping stupor.
I think first of all, let us debunk some of the stories that have been going around. The starting point, we should appreciate as a country that the Commission for Higher Education was established legally in 1985. In 1985, this country recognized the fact that university education required some regulation. And the university education required some harmonization and the structures, processes through which then we could allow private sector to play a role in establishing institutions and offering academic programs leading towards an award of a degree. And we have been very dynamic. Based on our experiences, we have actually nurtured the establishment of sister institutions in the neighboring countries and some across the continent. We are very proud of that as the Commission. However, you'll know that as we moved forward with the escalation of student numbers in universities and the establishment of a number of modules of how degrees were going to be offered, including the very famous Module 2 or parallel degree programs. The expansion of university education, including programs, the nomenclatures that the universities themselves were using to determine and decide what it is that they were teaching, became quite rigorous in terms of speed of development. And realizing that, this country looked at the University Act of 1985 and enacted a new act called the University Act 2012. And following the University Act 2012, the Commission for University Education created standards and regulations in 2014. And it is on the basis of those standards and regulations that this recent audit was undertaken. It is unfortunate that the way the public was meant to see or to view the matter is as if we were being instigated by the Cabinet Secretary. But that's our regular responsibility as the Commission. And if we have not been doing it to the satisfaction of the clients, and here clients cut across from students to the public, to the lecturers, etc.
Okay, we will delve deeper. Maybe, I don't know if that particular report is not yet out. I think the Commission will be able to release that particular report anytime soon. Maybe you have a time frame when you'll release this particular report?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about it. All right. But yes, we have also Omanga here saying that, of course, the university education system here is actually tottering on the edge of collapse. Is the situation very dire, Professor Noah Midamba? I know you can extrapolate this from also your experience from United States, where you've been a professor for quite a long time as well. So for 30 good years. So in comparison, when you come back here in the country and you look at the education system, are we on this particular brink of collapse, as Omanga is putting it, or all this is a hyperbole from Omanga?
Duba, let me take this from a global perspective and then bring it to the Kenya context so we can understand the direction we are taking and if we are on the right route and if we are indeed collapsing. University as we know it has been around for over 1,000 years. Most people don't know, but the first university was begun in Morocco in 1859 and was founded by a woman. This was followed by Bologna in 1088. That is the concept of university, basically focusing on three things. One is research.
Research.
The other one is teaching. And the last one is community service.
Yes.
Now, the approach that we have had in Kenya is what's called a Commonwealth model, which is heavily on lecturing and exams. And then the person who scored the highest, of course, you know, you are wonderful. You got A, you got B, and then you are what's called first class, second class, you know, whatever. And so we in Kenya literally have created an elitist education.
Elitist education.
Elitist education, where what matters to most people in Kenya is the degree I have. I have a PhD, I have a master, and I have a baccalaureate degree. But if you go deeper into what all this means and ask the people, what kind of skills do you have? And they will be puzzled when you ask a person. I do that constantly, even for all the faculty who are teaching at KCA. What skills do you have? And they're very puzzled. The person is teaching entrepreneurship. And then you ask, have you been an entrepreneur yourself? And when you say no, but do you understand how entrepreneurship works? No. Now, the person teaching entrepreneurship is teaching from a model or a pedagogical approach, we call it. That is exactly like history. I teach history, I lecture, and people take exam. Well, 2 years ago, the Ernst & Young did a study in Australia, and this is now shaping the Australian system, which is education is now dispersed. We are no longer the owner of knowledge. Knowledge is now dispersed, and we have people like Bill Gates, who has really created a revolution. Yes, the idea. Silicon Valley is not a university.
Thank
you. Then baccalaureate in India is no longer university. So where we are going to go in Kenya is we have to reset, we have to change in our approach.
Right, we have to reset, we have to change in our approach. We'll look on how we can actually reset, where are we headed as a country. So much, we have a flash of degrees, of course, in the market right now.
Correct.
And some of the degrees are wanting. How did we find ourselves in this place, Professor Mumo?
I think perhaps going back to Dr. Omanga and going to Professor Chacha Jangot Chacha, is to say since 1985, Commission for Higher Education, as it was called then, focused more on the private institution, private universities, and neglected the public universities. Public universities were assumed to be able to self-regulate themselves. And until recently, when the new constitution came in and the Universities Act 2012 came in, and all universities then were required to be chartered by Commission for University Education, is when the commission then tried to go to public universities, and I wonder what they did. In fact, it baffles me to see Commission for University Education in January attempting to do quality audit of, like, for example, Nairobi University, in the 2 days, the same as Scott Christian University. Scott Christian University is a small university. And Nairobi University is a large university. In fact, we cannot even compare with one campus or one satellite campus of Nairobi University. And they did that in 2 days. And were able to give a report after 2 days. I believe that's not correct.
Thank you.
Just leave it at that. Taken a little longer. And if I can just say one more item here. Why we find ourselves where we are is that neglect of public universities and focus on private universities. And that's why you find private universities are quite owned. In fact, we are doing very well, if I could say that word.
We're doing very well.
Yes.
Okay. We'll find out if we're really doing well, because, of course, Professor Obora here has been flying in the face of what the academia here in the country is all about. He believes that, first of all, that we should not really emphasize so much on degrees, but we should emphasize so much on the talents. And that's why he actually came up with the African Federation for Gifted and Talented Centers for Academia Referrals as well. Listening to what you know, our learned friends are saying here this morning, Professor, what do you make out of it? Because, of course, if we look and we take a trajectory maybe into the next 20 years, every one of us will be having a PhDs. Every one of us will be holding doctorates. Then when we go to the interview, so what? All of us are qualified. So a flash of degrees, then what?
Well, to avoid scratching on the surface, you asked a question. Are universities churning out fake degrees? What's a fake degree? For me, a fake degree is one printed from River Road and issued to a person and does not belong to that university. Or a student appeared in a class for the sake, had a relationship with a lecturer, a female student, and earned that degree. Or a student paid a lecturer not to mark that work, and the marks given were fictitious and therefore does not know that content. I know something in Africa, and for that reason, may I tell you, I'm also the World Secretary General and CEO of Gifted and Talented People, both young and old. I have a classic example of a person who dropped out of school in class 3 because he lacked fees. Having struggled to get the fees, the parents also passed away 3 months before examination. Psychologically affected, couldn't revise, couldn't do nothing. He was highly gifted and very promising with all those struggles. Unfortunately, he finally got a D+. This fellow decided to leave the village under the belly of a bus to Mombasa. Started as a guy who made tea in a company. Learned by heart, and I repeat, learned by heart. Because I know in Kenya, people believe learning is in the brain. And knew how to do accounts, learned Kiswahili, and learned English. Maybe not polished. When the owner of the company was Yemeni, went back, the trusted guy was given part of that fortune. Whereas there were master's degree holders and the rest who couldn't survive, they revived the company, and today he owns one of the best clearing and forwarding companies up to Dubai. He employs graduates and master's degree holders. He chairs their meetings. In fact, universities do send their own students to do attachments, and he signs the paper that you are competent. So he thinks, because he's also popular in that region, he wants to become member of parliament. Unfortunately, the constitution is changed and says, if you want to become elected, you must own a degree. And he says, since I even signed for them that I'm that good, I think my process should be faster. And so he goes to the university and is reminded, where are your grades? He doesn't have Form 4 degree certificate. But when he Googles the internet, he sees, including Harvard, they write, we may admit you, even if you have low grades or no grades at all, as long as it can be explained in other ways. This is a scenario that we witness the world over.
Yes.
That education is no longer just about the papers that you want to achieve. It's no longer just about that degree. It is about what you can bring new or how you can improve on what is existing.
All right, thank you.
That's what we would call education. But what we're talking about here doesn't sum up to that.
All right. Let's get back to Professor Chacha, first of all.
Yeah.
In light of this particular report and have been highlighted, of course, we've seen the rot in universities. We have Professor Mumo saying, how can you compare Scott University to Nairobi University and do also your audit within 2 days, right? Looking at the scope and, you know, the expanse of Nairobi University, I mean, it is humongous compared to Scott Universities and their satellite campuses as well.
I think the information that the audit was done in a few days is not correct. Yeah, the communication about the audit was sent to universities in advance.
Yes. And
the universities were given about 30 days to address the issues that we wanted to find out information on. It is true that Scott cannot compare with the University of Nairobi, but on the other hand, as far as standards are concerned and regulation qualifications, we are looking for the same. Whether you are a small university or a mega university, if we are expecting you to have a certain ratio of student-teacher ratio, it doesn't matter whether you're big or small. If you are expected to have developed a process through which you supervise your master's students,
yes,
whether you are a small university, so long as you have a master's program, we expect that you have a system which is comparable to the system that we get in a bigger university. It is true that in this country we have had a challenge regarding the dichotomy between private and public universities, and that this is a misnomer. I want to assure Kenyans that as far as we are concerned at the Commission, we are concerned about university education of Kenyans. And this university education of Kenyans will be offered in both public and private universities. You have seen the mindset of the government has also changed. Since last year, we have allowed students to go to private universities who are government-sponsored. We are looking at them as the students of Kenya, who should get quality education. And this quality education, to assure it, has several levels, starting from the department where the program is offered, to the Senate, which approves that program, and eventually to the Commission for University Education, which accredits the programs and accredits institutions. And I think we need to run like that, with the structures that can be predictable, that can be assured, that can be made to work. Because when they are not working, we will just have them on paper.
Thank you. Maybe we should come to you, Duncan, because also you're taking issues or issue with the fact that, first of all, we have these mushrooming satellite campuses. And I know maybe in this particular report also, you're pegging actually your audit on 4 areas. This, maybe I can say it could be the executive degree. I'm not privy to the executive degrees which are here. And we know also the school-based degree programs in the universities. Also the satellites. We can talk about this public and public universities that are sponsored by the government, and the satellite campuses which are mushrooming right now. And I think, Omanga, you highlighted about the satellites which are coming up, that yes, we have satellite universities that even they're more common than the chain of supermarkets that we have in the country. Every area you can find, you know, now it's a super, it's university kiosks.
And actually that should tell you something of why I use the idea that the commission was actually asleep, because where were they when all this was happening? And I think at one point we lacked leadership, both at the highest level in the ministry, at the commission, and even in individual universities. Because you would expect where professors head institutions, some sobriety would take effect, because classes have to be small, they have to be in a conducive environment, and it is not easy to actually get experts in higher, I mean, to teach in universities. So when you see these campuses all out there, you ask yourself, who are the guys teaching in these universities? And if they are teaching these universities, I mean, where else do they teach? I mean, it's really complicated. But I want to go back also to the issue that the issue of the audit, where I want to disagree with the professor here, Professor Chacha, because they also did a 2-day. They came for 2 days in our university, and I don't think that is just enough to understand the systems and evaluate the systems. And also, I don't think it is actually enough for a university of 30,000 So I've seen some of the outcomes of that report, and basically it is underwhelming. You know, there's a lot of focus on technicalities and all that, which can be, you know, administratively addressed, you know, locally. And so going back to the issue of mushrooming, one of it was the reason why we have this mushrooming of universities is also because politics has also come in. You know, politicians want to have universities in their villages, and you also have university administrators also who, if I come from Kisii, I want to have a satellite campus in Kisii, so that when I go back to the village, I can tell my village.
This is the spirit of devolution.
Yeah, you see what I've been doing for you. You know,
Bongo, Machakos
exactly.
University. You know, all the 47 universities have.
Yeah. So for as long as politics is infused in university education, and people look at university as something that can be owned by a community or a particular tribe, then we will continue having mushrooming of these universities, unless, of course, the Commission for University Education comes.
A quick one from Professor Naomi Damba.
Dubal, when I came from America in 2010, in 2011, I was invited by the Minister of Education to talk about innovation in higher education. And I think Professor Chacha was there, and quite a number of people, Vice Chancellor, everybody. I called for abolition of what was called JAB and re-engineering of our thinking, which is, I have here on the article of East African time, business time. The issue is, what JAB did was really to kill the soul of Kenya for 50 years. Because you were selected, and then you were told what subject to study and where you were supposed to study. So if you are potential aeronautic engineer, then you were told you must you go to Moi University and study history, and then become a high school teacher. Now, the moment you receive that letter, all your aspiration and everything is dead. So I call for, let's get rid of it, let's re-engineer, let's create new thinking. Luckily enough, last year, President Kenyatta called us all at the State House and said, go ahead and implement this idea, which bring public-private university together. Because Mumo and I represent private universities that are non-profit. These are not for-profit making agency. They are bringing value added to Kenya, and every Kenya is paying taxes. That means part of our taxes are going to our education system. So we have to improve. Now, let me get back to the question of the recent review. The recent review was necessary. Whether it was done for 2 days or 10 days, 100 days, it doesn't matter. The system the trend needed to be disrupted, because we were off on the wrong foot. As you have heard, we politicized education system, and therefore became almost meaningless. We don't have the capacity for the number of 70 universities that we have. Give you an example. Israel right now has 80 universities. They have 22 colleges. They have 19 teachers institutions. The first university in Israel began in 1925. And then recent development where we are. Israel is number 10 in terms of hierarchy of the world education, in terms of quality and everything. So our education system must not mushroom like food. We must understand what is it that we want to do. I had an interesting discussion last year with the Vice Chancellor of Egerton University. And I asked my friend, why are you doing business, MBA, instead of focusing on agriculture? Because we need the backbone of development of this country need to be agriculture. We need to put 10% of our gross national product on agriculture. And will be nice if every village has an extension of Egerton College, instead of us copying each other.
All right. Okay, instead of us copying each other, and I think also this is a dichotomy that we need to draw, and I think between technical universities and teaching universities as well, because agriculture universities, maybe like Egerton University, which should be focusing on agriculture itself and horticulture,
correct,
is also doing, I don't know if they're doing, they have a law program? No, they don't. They
do
have a law program. They have a law program and they have a business program as well, right?
Everyone.
Okay, let's hear
except me.
Except and maybe Mumo.
I veto it.
And maybe also Professor Mumo, maybe you can tell us from Scott University as well.
I think I wanted to mention here, as I listened to Professor Midamba, 70 universities are not many for 40 million Kenyans. That is about a university for every 600,000 Kenyans.
Yes.
So it's not many. I think what is important is quality. Is quality. You don't need to have a large number of students per university, but you have quality. For the last 2 years, I was serving as executive committee member in the University Council of East Africa, where East Africa has created a quality assurance framework. And if we follow that framework, and the Chacha used to be the executive director of IUCA, if we follow that framework, we will be able to bring quality and sanity to our university system.
Yes.
But the problem is, as you listened to politics a little earlier, Kenyans seem to be keen to shortcut. Shortcut. If you come from the village, you know you fence your compound, but people still cut through your compound. People like shortcut. They don't want long cut. They don't want to stay somewhere for longer. But let me tell you, university means, in education, you are imparting knowledge, skill, and character formation. It also means research. Research, you must dwell on an item for a longer time.
Yes.
You must be willing to spend time. But when you begin, for example, if I want coffee, I want instant coffee, not use a coffee maker, which will take longer. And in the same way, you would find, I listened to Dr. Matiang'i, of course, and he was saying many times a politician wants to stand for position, like a friend is saying. And therefore, the best thing is to go back to the university and pay something, and within a year, they get a degree.
Yes.
And that's how we are heading up to talk about.
That's what we want to. That's what we want to focus on. And of course, Bonachair, you're going to be telling us more on this, because we have politicians, and I know some of the politicians have approached some people in this academia fraternity, and they're asking them, could we get this particular diploma or degree in 2 weeks? And they're colluding on that. They're colluding on that. Can we take callers who are hanging on that, and then we'll get back to that? These are the fake degrees that we want to see now that the IEBC and the ACC will be clamping down on. And of course, let's hear from our callers who are hanging online this morning. We have Jared hanging online. Good morning, Jared.
Good morning.
Morning to you. You have a question or a contribution for our panelists?
I have a contribution.
Very briefly, sir.
Yeah, it can also be a question. The issue is we've got plagiarism happening in universities, where a lot of assignments are written by people from outside, or you find a situation where somebody takes written material from the internet, copy and paste it, and then submit it for marking. On the other issue also is on quality. Why can't we, the Commission for University Education, do benchmarking with the best universities that we have in the world to see what they're doing right that we are not doing right in this country?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jared. We have Simon also hanging on the line. Good morning, Simon. Good morning, Simon.
Hello. Good morning, Mr. Dibal.
Morning to you. You have a question or contribution for our panelists this
morning? I have a contribution, a very brief one.
Thank you, sir.
I want to say that the university in Kenya has failed Kenyans because they have never put down the formula of how Kenyans can grow up and be motivated ethically and even academically. You see, it's like the politicians, some of which we have not have proper knowledge, are the ones who control the professors and even design which way the university should go and which professor should teach and even behave, instead of the professor advising the politicians and all Kenyans on which way to go. So the professors, I don't know what happened to Kenya. They have failed the nation. Thank you.
All right, so professors have failed the nation, I should say. We have Evans also hanging on the line. Good morning, Evans.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Morning. You have a question or a contribution, sir?
A contribution, I'll be making a correction.
Yeah, very briefly.
Yeah, there's this professor who said that the first university was in Morocco.
Yes.
Actually, the first university in the Middle Ages in Africa was in Mali. That is the University of Timbuktu.
All right.
Much earlier than the University of Morocco. And yet earlier on, during the Ancient period, there were universities in Egypt, like the University of Alexandria.
Yes.
Much longer, much earlier than European universities. For instance, the University of Bologna comes much later than the University of Timbuktu.
Right, thank you.
And the University of Timbuktu had more books, better lecturers, than most universities in the world, because Mali at the time was the most advanced nation in the world.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. There, Evans correcting one of our panelists here. Right, you heard it was from the University of Timbuktu.
He needs to get his facts correct.
Who needs to get the facts right? Evans or
no, Evans.
Or not you?
Not me.
Okay, so we don't know the truth.
Mine is facts.
Mine is facts.
Yeah.
All right, let's come to Professor Humphrey. First of all, the world is changing because as it is right now, we can see most people who are making money right now are not people who are sporting ties and they're wearing nice, well-cut suit like us. They're people who are wearing shorts.
Like all of you.
Same for you, don't wear a tie as well.
Right.
There are people who are actually dribbling balls and actually kicking footballs as well. Tell us, is the world really changing? Because we tend to focus so much. We're not really in any way slicing away degrees and education. But the fact is, as I mentioned earlier, if we take a forward trajectory, of course, if we take a trajectory ahead, we'll see in the next 20 years, all of us will be having degrees and doctorates. Then
Thank
what? You. Very briefly.
I talked about this 16 years ago here in Kenya. And I will say one thing here. The challenges with Commission for University Education will continue because they are dependent on external factors like funding, which is very archaic, HR and all that. Human nature will never change. People will always want to cheat, find shortcuts. That will continue.
Yes.
Before I was born, it was happening. It's still going on. It might continue. This is written in the Bible. It's written in the Quran and all the holy books. And it is the reason for which we go to church, we go to these places. God only planted in you what is called talent and gave you one job: grow the talent to a gift. That's all you need to know. The very essence of learning, not education, is about how to grow talent into a gift. If you go to church, what are you looking for? You want to know who you are. Who are you? When you're going to any education system, when you're going to any university, what is it that is in me that I should find, and how can it work for me? Just make it that simple. We are faced today in this world with a very bad situation in which we are giving injections to patients without any medical review. You are teaching people without knowing what their talents are, without knowing what they can learn and what they'll never learn. So these problems that we're talking about is just sourced from there.
All right.
The origin is just because we don't know people's talent, and we know talent by the naked eye. There is no scientific or professional process that I mention all the time that include machine screening. We only know talent by what politicians see by the naked eyes and make conclusions, just like you touch the forehead of your child and say, oh, joto sana, hii ni malaria, sindano mara moja. We are dumb.
Oh, okay. Maybe you want to respond to this, because also we had Professor J.Z. Nyang'ao saying massification seems to be the fundamental problem facing Kenya's public higher education and a catalyst for other problems as well. There is this massification that we're having. We churn. It's a mass production of degrees Get one, get a PhD, we're done. All of us have degrees. Are we also lacking in where there is a talent-based sort of education? I was looking at a very interesting documentary by Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. Of course, it was about Cristiano Ronaldo and how, you know, the education system in the country also, they invested in the talent of Cristiano Ronaldo. They discovered that he could play football at a very formative, tender age. Yeah. And they took it to a football academy, where they emphasize on football, yes, but also the other fundamentals of, you know, the mainstream subjects like maths, English also is taught. But football is given much premium than others because they discovered this is a talent that we need to nurture. But how much is he raking right now? Better than even all of you when it comes to, gross salary, I should say, right? But I want us, because we have also a shortage of time, we can talk about these degrees because this is also part of the element of a report or subject of a report that you have, the executive degrees. Yes. First of all, there's a flash of executive degrees. Yeah. You tell us about these executive degrees and why your commission is stopping the executive degrees.
I think that we are not stopping the executive degrees.
Going forward.
We are, however, addressing the question of what is an executive MBA, for example.
Yes.
If somebody goes to a university because he's an entrepreneur or he's involved in some marketing and management issues, or he's running a business, and he joins a university like KCA for an executive MBA, it is meant to give him skills, which we have been talking about, in order for that individual to go back and improve on the output of his company. Correct. Our problem here in this country is that most of the executive MBAs which have been started by our universities are now being used by individuals as a benchmark on the basis of which to seek PhD studies. And that is not the rationale behind the establishment of the executive MBA. And you also have had situations where honoris causa degrees, the honorary degrees, are offered by an institution which is not teaching even in that area. You get somebody being given a D.Lit by a university which has never taught linguistics, has never taught literature, has never taught philology. And the citation is therefore written by some people who are gained from elsewhere, not from within the university. I think the question of this audit was for us to unravel and unveil the current situation in the universities, both public and private, in terms of the challenges. And we have seen them. Each university has received its individual university report on the quality audit that was undertaken, and there has been a generic report that we are working on. We are receiving responses from the universities, and I believe that as a commission, we are set to ensure that all these issues and concerns that the panelists here are expressing, plus those who are questioning us, are going to be addressed. We must now address this question of quality assurance framework. Yes, at the Inter-University Council, there is already a system which every university is supposed to be.
I think that is a topic for another day. Yes. But I just want you to clarify, before we come to you, Professor Nomidamba, and of course we have 5 minutes to wind up. I'm pleading with my director. Add me 3 minutes here so that we can actually wind up. Yeah, we're strapped for time, but I wanted to know this particular executive degree, because I'm given to understand that the Senate of each university which certified that person, maybe, and these degrees are questionable, they have to review the qualifications or, you know, something that was equivalent to them really getting into this executive degree in the first place. Because you need to have a master's for you to qualify for the executive degree.
I don't think you need to have a master's. I think you need to have a degree of whatever nature. It could even be PhD, or it could be a master's, it could be a BA. But I think
the executive degrees were tailor-made for the people who are in the industry. They cannot
go for and they are not supposed to be used as academic qualifications for PhD registration.
So why is this water so murky? We cannot muddy it. We cannot actually see the clarity. Is it the failure from the commission?
No.
Or what was actually the problem?
I think it was just nomenclature explanation.
Nomenclature.
Yeah, the way people explain terminology. So because